Google Street View. It's mapped the world in incredible detail, but sometimes the cameras capture more than just roads and buildings. From bizarre coincidences to unexplainable scenes, these accidental snapshots have left people scratching their heads. Join me, I'm going to uncover 15 of the weirdest Google Street View moments ever discovered. Starting with number 15, the Horse Boy of Aberdeen. A single, unremarkable street in Aberdeen became an unexpected internet curiosity when Google Street View captured an unsettling figure lurking on the sidewalk. The individual standing near the Hardgate area of the city was dressed in dark trousers, a purple shirt, and most notably, a large brown and white horsehead mask. He was dubbed Horse Boy, and his inexplicable presence sent internet users scrambling for explanations. The image of Horse Boy quickly spread from forums and news outlets, with people across Europe claiming to have seen him elsewhere. Some insisted they had encountered him in Norway, Germany, or even Spain. Others suggested he'd been spotted in Norwich, Cardiff, and other UK cities. Was it a coordinated prank, a performance art piece, or was there something stranger going on? For some, Horse Boy was an amusing anomaly, nothing more than a man in a cheap novelty mask attempting to inject humor into the monotony of daily life. Observant users later discovered that moving along the street and adjusting the camera angle revealed a brief sequence. The figure could be seen putting on the horse mask, then turning to face the road. Well, if nothing else, this suggested intent. Yet, Horse Boy was far from the only masked figure to make an appearance on Street View. Similar sightings have emerged in other locations, often featuring individuals wearing animal masks or costumes while staring at the camera. In Japan, a group of masked individuals in pigeon heads stood motionless near a river. In the United States, clowns and mannequins have appeared in front yards, seemingly posed for the passing camera. These strange figures suggest that Street View has become an unexpected stage for those seeking to create digital folklore. Number 14, the Loch Ness Stig. The world of Google Street View is full of bizarre and unexpected discoveries, but few are as strangely amusing as the sight of the Stig standing alone on the side of a Scottish road. Now, the Stig is the mysterious helmet-clad driver from BBC's Top Gear, and he's known for his silent demeanor and superhuman driving skills. On this particular day, there he was, motionless, arms crossed, staring down the empty A82 near Inverness. The sighting left people with more questions than answers. Well, the Stig's sudden roadside appearance was first brought to public attention when the official Google Maps Twitter account posted an image of him standing stoically at the coordinates IV63 6XJ. Well, immediately speculation ran wild. Was he waiting for a ride? Had he finally run out of gas? Had Top Gear's stunt gone terribly wrong, or was this just another calculated move in the long-running joke surrounding his existence? Well, the scene itself raises even more questions. Behind the Stig, a seemingly driverless Vauxhall Astra sits parked in a lay-by, and if that wasn't his car, it certainly didn't fit his usual reputation for high-speed supercars. This led some to joke that the Stig had been forced to downgrade after years of reckless driving. Or perhaps in a rare moment of mechanical failure, even the Stig needed roadside assistance. Well, of course, the most likely explanation is that it was an elaborate prank or publicity stunt orchestrated by Top Gear, or a devoted fan who had advanced knowledge of Google mapping schedule. It wouldn't be the first time the Stig has been spotted in unusual places. He's previously appeared in a Lego car on Street View, among other odd sightings. Well, given Top Gear's history of absurd and theatrical humor, it's not far-fetched to think that this was just another clever way to remind the world of the Stig's enduring mystique. Whether he was genuinely stranded, making a dramatic statement, or simply playing along with the legend of his character, one thing is certain. His appearance on Google Street View only adds to his mystique. The Stig is known for being the best driver in the world, but on that day in Inverness, he seemed just as lost as the rest of us. Number 13, the Pigeon People of Japan. Street View is designed to capture the ordinary, sidewalks, intersections, and storefronts, yet sometimes it stumbles upon the bizarre. One such moment happened in Japan, where a group of individuals stood motionless near a canal in western Tokyo, their faces concealed behind pigeon masks. This eerie yet comical sight quickly spread online, earning them the nickname the Japanese Bird People. Well, at first glance, the scene looks like something out of a surrealist painting. Several people stand in formation, dressed in everyday clothing but with oversized pigeon heads obscuring their faces. The stillness of their pose and the uniformity of the masks creates an unsettling effect. It's as if they were waiting, not for a bus, not for a signal to cross the street, but for something else entirely, something unseen. Well, internet users wasted no time in dissecting the scene. The location, near Musashino Art University, hinted at a potential explanation. Given its proximity to an institution known for creative minds, many speculated that this was an elaborate prank or an art piece staged by students. Others pointed to reports that the bird people were actually writers from the blog Daily Portal Z who had caught wind of Google's mapping project. They knew their faces would be blurred if left exposed, so instead they opted for something unforgettable. But it raised questions. Did they stand there in silence as the camera approached? Did they break formation once the car had passed? And what would a passerby have thought stumbling upon them without the context of the digital world? Street View has uncovered other masked figures too, clowns, mannequins, and even that infamous horseboy of Aberdeen, but the bird people do stand apart. Whether it was meant as a joke, an experiment, or an artistic statement, the bird people of Japan leave behind something rare, an image that refuses to be ignored. Number 12. Swedish carpetbaggers. So Street View's got a way of capturing the world in moments that are both unintentional and bizarre. Among the many strange discoveries made through its lens, the so-called Swedish burglars stands out as one of the most unintentionally hilarious sightings. The image, taken in Stockholm, Sweden, appears to show two men sneaking out of an apartment building carrying a rolled-up carpet. Their choice of clothing, a pair of striped shirts reminiscent of classic burglar attire, only adds to this spectacle. At first glance, the scene looks undeniably suspicious. The two men are clad in black trousers, their faces partially obscured, and they seem to make their way out down the street with urgency. To an untrained eye, it might appear as if a crime is unfolding in broad daylight. Some internet users, upon discovering the image, have even speculated that they stumbled upon a live kidnapping. Well, upon closer examination, the scene is more comical than criminal. It's entirely possible that these men were simply moving a carpet from one place to another, completely unaware that they were about to become internet famous. Well, despite the harmless reality of the situation, the image quickly spread. Social media users latched on to the absurdity of this scene, sharing and resharing the image with captions speculating on the crime in progress. Some joked that the two men had leaned too far into their roles, dressing exactly how one might expect a cartoon burglar to look. Well, what remains is a perfectly frozen moment in time, an optical illusion of crime, humor, and coincidence that only Google Street View could provide. Number 11. The Great Train Graveyard. On the edge of the Bolivian Altiplano, just a few miles from the small town of Uyuni, lies one of the strangest, most haunting places ever captured on Google Street View, the Great Train Graveyard. Tilt the camera in any direction, and the desolate, rust-colored landscape offers no hint of civilization, only the skeletal remains of locomotives stretching on into the horizon. It sits roughly 2 miles outside Uyuni, once a thriving transportation hub for Bolivia's mining industry. But in the late 19th century, British engineers and Bolivian entrepreneurs had ambitious plans to transform it into a rail network, connecting the region's rich mineral deposits with ports on the Pacific. Now, what makes this place surreal is the openness. There's no fences, no guards, no ticket booths, and the once mighty steel engines now sit exposed to the elements. Graffiti covers the carriages, some artistic, some crude, adding to the atmosphere here. Visitors can climb atop and inside the trains and pose for photos or simply take in the eerie silence. Google Street View captures this scene with unsettling clarity. The virtual traveler can glide through the graveyard, turning the camera around to find nothing but dirt, rust, and distant mountains. It feels isolated, as though wandering through a long-forgotten battleground. And yet there's something even stranger lurking within this digital snapshot. Among the rusting ruins, sharp-eyed viewers have reported spotting a figure that shouldn't be there, a horse-headed person. Well, the appearance of a horse-headed figure in Uyuni, a motif that's shown up on Street View in various countries, only adds to the mystery of the train graveyard. What compels people to don a horse mask and appear at the edges of civilization, waiting silently for the passing eye of a camera car? Well, no one seems to know. It's as if the abandoned trains are not the only ghosts of Uyuni. Number 10. The Scuba Guys. When Google Street View expanded its coverage to Norway in 2010, it inadvertently captured one of the most bizarre moments in history. In the quiet residential streets of Bergen, an otherwise routine mapping journey took a surreal turn. Two individuals clad head to toe in scuba gear were seated in lawn chairs as if waiting for something or someone. Equipped with an umbrella for added effect, they sat motionless until the moment arrived. As Google Street View car approached, the duo sprang into action, launching an absurd chase down the street, brandishing harpoons and wearing flippers. The spectacle of the scene was immortalized in Google's panoramic images, leading to worldwide fascination. Well, the question on everyone's mind was simple. How did they know? The Google's car routes are not typically announced, making it difficult to anticipate them. Yet these two divers clearly had been expecting it. Well, the answer, as it turned out, was surprisingly mundane, though no less amusing. The pranksters were friends of the driver. Having been tipped off about the car's schedule, they lay in wait, fully prepared to stage their outlandish pursuit. For 20 minutes, they sat poised in the perfect moment, the umbrella a final touch to add to the absurdity. Unlike other pranks that have been played on Google Street View, like the German residents who greeted the camera car with a pantless display, this particular stunt carried no political message or anti-surveillance sentiment. It was pure, unfiltered mischief, a moment of spontaneity executed with perfect absurdity. Despite their efforts, the divers never did make it to the ocean, and there was no triumphant dive into the fjords, no grand escape into the depths. Instead, they were left behind on the pavement, their mission complete, their moment of viral glory secured. Whether they were simply entertaining themselves or crafting an elaborate inside joke, their antics ensured their place in the annals of Google Street View history. Number 9. Hazmat Hijinks. There, of course, are strange sights on Google Street View, and then there are two figures in hazmat suits lurking in a field near Oscarsborg Fortress, Norway. Of all the oddities captured by the ever-watchful eyes of the cameras, this one has become quite a sensation, the kind of quirky mystery that the internet can't resist. The setting is picturesque: green grass, tall trees, distant hills, and the calm waters of the Oslofjord. It's the kind of serene Scandinavian landscape you might associate with peace and quiet. But when one drops a little yellow Google Maps figure onto this patch of Norwegian countryside, that calm is replaced with a strange, comical sight. Two people, head to toe in bright red hazmat suits, stand in the open field. Their faces are blurred, as Google Maps always does, adding an extra layer of anonymity to this scene. While one figure raises their fist triumphantly in the air, while the other holds what appears to be a golf club, poised as though about to take a swing at their companion. The image was spotted by a curious Reddit user in 2020, and the oddity of the scene quickly gained some attention. Were they conducting some kind of environmental test? Was there an unseen threat that only they knew about? Or was this simply a prank for the ages? Well, a closer look at the location reveals there's no plausible reason for anyone to be wearing a hazmat suit at this fortress. This is a historic site that's best known for its role in sinking a German warship during World War II. There's no chemical plants, no hazardous waste sites, and certainly no plausible airborne threats. This leads to an obvious conclusion. This was no government operation or emergency. This was two people having fun, creating a mystery for anyone who happened to stumble upon it. Maybe they knew the car was coming through, or maybe they just liked the idea of being immortalized in digital folklore. Either way, their antics have delighted and confused viewers ever since. So what are the odds that this was real? Now, technically it was real in the sense that it happened. Two people really did stand there in red hazmat suits, captured forever by Google's cameras. But beyond that, it's clear that this was staged, and that's what makes it fun. No one expects to find something so strange while virtually strolling through Norway. And yet there it is. The Hazmat duo are now part of the growing collection of weird and wonderful Google Street View finds, giving the digital landscape its own brand of folklore, one surreal snapshot at a time. Number 8. Taking out the trash. Street View has captured so many strange moments, but few are as unsettling as the image of what appears to be a prison inmate casually strolling away from a jail in Adrian, Michigan. On North Winter Street, directly in front of the county jail, the Google camera car snapped a moment that left viewers questioning what they were really seeing. A man dressed in what looked like prison-issued attire is walking down the sidewalk with a makeshift bindle slung over his shoulder, evoking an image more fitting of an old-fashioned escape than a modern correctional facility. At first glance, the scene appears almost too casual. There's no sense of urgency, no guards in pursuit, no blaring alarms. The man simply walking, his posture relaxed, his stride unhurried. The immediate reaction from those who saw the image was one of bewilderment. How could an inmate just walk out the front door like that? Was this a genuine escape, unfolding in plain sight, or was there a more mundane explanation? Well, the reality is far less dramatic. The man was probably a prison trustee, an inmate granted certain privileges for good behavior, including tasks like taking out the trash or performing maintenance work outside the facility. In many jails and prisons, trustees are allowed to move around in designated areas without constant supervision. However, what makes this image so unusual is the complete absence of any visible oversight. If this was indeed a sanctioned work assignment, one would expect to see at least one guard nearby, or some indication that this was an ordinary occurrence. Instead, the lone figure, his bindle over his shoulder, appears isolated, adding to the illusion that he's simply walking away free from constraint. At the end of the day, and even at the beginning of the day, what makes this image so odd is its normalcy. There's no frantic getaway, no telltale signs of an unfolding drama, just a man dressed like an inmate, walking away from jail as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It's this calm, almost dreamlike quality that makes this image so compelling. Whether it was an innocent work assignment or a brief moment of unnoticed rebellion, Google Street View captured a scene that feels like it shouldn't exist. And yet there it is, frozen in time, leaving viewers to wonder what exactly they're witnessing. Moving on to number 7, Glitch in the Matrix. So there's something unsettling about seeing the same person appear multiple times in a single Street View image. It's not just a case of déjà vu, it's a visual contradiction, an impossible reality captured in digital form. Google Street View cars capture images using a 360-degree camera system mounted on the roof. Instead of taking a single, seamless photograph, these cameras continuously snap multiple images as the car moves. Later, specialized software stitches the images together to create the illusion of an uninterrupted panorama. However, the process isn't perfect. If a person is walking along the sidewalk while the car passes, they may appear in multiple frames. When these frames are merged, the person seems to exist in several places at once, creating an eerie and seemingly impossible visual effect. To an untrained eye, it might look like a glitch in reality itself. Some have even called it evidence of a glitch in the Matrix, referencing the popular idea that the world we're experiencing is nothing more than a simulation. But Occam's razor, the principle that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one, suggests otherwise. While this phenomenon is rare, it's not unique. Similar distortions have been spotted worldwide, from individuals appearing multiple times in a single frame to body parts mysteriously stretching or vanishing. Google's image processing algorithms do an impressive job of piecing together billions of data points, but every so often they do make a mistake. And when they do, the results can be both comical and deeply unsettling. Ultimately, the appearance of duplicate figures on Google Street View is a trick of technology rather than an anomaly of the universe. It's an accidental artifact of digital photography, a side effect of how modern mapping tools piece the world together. While the illusion may momentarily unsettle you, its reality is far less mysterious, but no less intriguing. Number 6. Masked Men in Mexico. Street View has captured many strange images over the years, but few are as immediately eerie as the masked figures standing in the middle of a road in Montezuma, Sonora, Mexico. At first glance, the image seems almost staged. 4 individuals, each wearing an unsettling mask, positioned just as the Google streetcar passes by. Well, one figure dons a werewolf mask, another a luchador face covering, while the others hide behind a scream mask and a balaclava. They stand motionless, facing the camera as if they're waiting. Some suggested that the masked figures were up to no good, while others posited a more lighthearted explanation, perhaps a group of friends attempting to create a moment of internet infamy. Yet the way that they turn towards the car, their faces already concealed, raises the question: how did they know the Street View vehicle was coming? If so, were they waiting for it? If these individuals had been standing near the road when they heard or saw the car approaching, they could have quickly arranged themselves for maximum effect. Perhaps it was a prank meant to unsettle those who stumbled upon it, or simply a group of costumed individuals who happened to be in the right place at the right time. The illusion of menace in the image is powerful, but context matters. Montezuma is not a place typically known for staged internet pranks, and the masked figures don't appear to be part of any obvious event, such as a parade or festival. However, there is no evidence that their presence signifies anything truly sinister. Given that they're simply standing, not actively approaching the vehicle, it's likely nothing more than an eerie coincidence. But what makes it so strange is not just the masks or the setting, but the randomness of it. It feels staged, yet there's no audience. It looks menacing, yet no action is being taken, and it feels deliberate, yet there's no clear purpose. In the end, the masked figures are an eerie reminder of how Street View can transform a mundane moment into truly something surreal. Number 5. This, That, and the Other. In the small community of Porter's Lake, Nova Scotia, giving directions can turn into an unintentional comedy routine. The town has 3 streets named This Street, That Street, and The Other Street, making it one of the funniest and most confusing locations on Google Street View. At first glance, it seems like an elaborate prank, but these are real street names, and they've been amusing locals and visitors alike for years. Imagine the challenge of trying to direct somebody to a house in this neighborhood. Take a left on this street. No, not that street. This street. Yes, that's right. Now turn right on that street. No, not this street, that street. And if you hit the other street, you've gone too far. The potential for confusion here is endless, and one can only wonder how many delivery drivers, emergency responders, and even GPS systems cope with the absurdity. This peculiar naming convention likely came about from either a lack of inspiration or an inside joke taken to the next level. But Porter's Lake isn't the only place with unusual street names. Culver, Oregon has its own This Way Lane and That Way Lane, continuing the theme of directional chaos. Meanwhile, in Reheight, South Dakota, the prairie landscape is divided by a vast grid of numbered streets, leading to intersections like 213th Street and 349th Avenue, despite there being little more than open fields in sight. Elsewhere, towns have embraced humor and creativity in the naming conventions, with streets like Dull Road in Virginia, Far From Poopin' Road in Arkansas, located near a sewage treatment plant, and even Less Road in Wyoming. Of course, this uniqueness comes at a cost. Imagine being lost and asking locals for directions. "Excuse me, how do I get to this street?" Only to be met with a puzzled look. It's a situation straight out of an Abbott and Costello skit. Emergency responders might have to double-check their dispatch information to avoid heading to that street instead of this street, and even GPS systems, which are designed to handle complex navigation, still struggle with the ambiguity of it. For travelers with a love of the quirky and unusual, a visit to Porter's Lake is a must. Take a stroll down this street, wave at the houses on that street, and snap a picture at the sign for the other street. Just don't ask for directions, you might never find your way out. Number 4. The Headington Shark. The internet is filled with strange sights, but few as bizarre as the Headington Shark, a structure that's left countless Google Street View users questioning what the hell they're looking at. Located in the quiet, unassuming suburb of Headington, Oxford, this surreal image captures a seemingly impossible scene: a massive, head-first shark embedded into the roof of a typical English home. For those stumbling upon it for the first time, through the dispassionate lens of Google's mapping service, it appears as though something catastrophic just happened. A creature impossibly large has plummeted from the sky, breaching the house as if it were the surface of the ocean. The reality is just as fascinating as the illusion. The Headington Shark, officially named Untitled 1986, is not the result of an unexpected marine disaster, but rather a piece of protest art with a deep historical root. The sculpture was commissioned by the house's owner, Bill Hine, American-born BBC radio host, in response to the bombings in Libya carried out by American warplanes from an airbase near Oxford. Erected without permission on August 9, 1986, exactly 41 years after the atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, the shark was meant to symbolize destruction from above, the feeling of powerlessness and impending doom. Over the years, the Headington shark took on a life of its own. What was once a provocative protest piece became a local landmark, a bizarre attraction drawing visitors. It appeared in advertising campaigns, inspired April Fool's Day hoaxes, and even became the subject of a book written by Hein himself. When Google Street View began capturing detailed images of the world's roads, the shark's infamy only grew. As the years passed, the Headington shark continued to evolve. In 2016, Hein's son, Magnus Hansen Hein, purchased the house to ensure the sculpture remained intact. The property was later converted into an Airbnb, offering guests the chance to stay beneath one of the world's strangest works of art. The shark itself underwent restorations to maintain its presence, and in 2022, the Oxford City Council formally recognized it as a heritage site. This decision was ironic, given that the sculpture had originally been an act of rebellion against planning laws. It was originally designed to disturb, to challenge, to make people look up and ask questions. That effect has only been amplified in the digital age. Google Street View presents the world as an endless series of ordinary places, rows of houses, quiet streets, familiar landscapes, and then suddenly there it is, a shark frozen mid-impact, locked in a silent scream above an unsuspecting home. It's a reminder of the power of art to disrupt and provoke. It's a protest against complacency, an artifact of defiance, and a source of endless fascination for those who stumble upon it online. Number 3. A Sea of Scarecrows. The silent people of Finland is one of the eeriest sightings on Google Street View. It's unsettling for those who stumble upon it. It's located along Highway 5 outside of Suomussalmi, a region in northern Finland. This field of hundreds of scarecrow-like figures has inspired fascination and dread. The Silent People is an art installation by Reijo Kela, a Finnish performance artist. Yet despite its artistic origins, the site is sparking theories, legends, and a profound sense of unease. During the Winter War of 1939 to 1940, Suomussalmi was the site of a brutal and decisive battle between Finnish and Soviet forces. The scars of that conflict still linger there, not visible in ruins, but in the collective memory of the land and its people. At first glance, the Silent People appear almost festive. The figures, with wooden bodies, peat heads covered in straw, and colorful clothing, seem to be gathered for some rural fair. Their clothes, changed twice a year, bring flashes of life to an otherwise bleak landscape, but as you draw closer, the absence of movement, sound, and life transforms the scene from quaint to disturbing. For those who discover this strange field through Google Street View, the effect is even more surreal. Imagine exploring Finland's countryside from the comfort of your screen, navigating through the snow-dusted forests and desolate roads, only to stumble upon this mass of lifeless figures. The field, with its rows of figures, could be interpreted as a flash mob frozen in time, maybe a gathering that never disbanded. But in this light, the Silent People feels like a rural echo of urban phenomena, a gathering that isn't quite a protest, isn't quite a celebration, but rather a communal expression of silence and stillness. The longer you look, the more boundaries between art, history, and folklore seem to dissolve. The Silent People first appeared in a field near Helsinki, then moved to Lasilia, and even stood in Helsinki's Senate Square in 1994. For a time, they lined the banks of the river before finally setting along Highway 5. This nomadic history for these figures suggests a kind of restless spirit, as though the installation itself is searching for a final resting place. It's more than just a curious roadside attraction. It is a piece of living art that invites and resists interpretation in equal measure. And for those who stumble upon it, whether in person or through the lens of Google Street View, the Silent People leave an impression that lingers long after the screen is turned off or the road that has carried them away. Number 2. The Tesla Graveyard. A Tesla graveyard hidden away in an overgrown field? It's one of the strangest discoveries to ever emerge from Google Street View in 2024. What appeared at first glance to be a typical grassy lot turned out to be something far more peculiar. Rows and rows of pristine Tesla Model 3s, hundreds of them, sat abandoned in the Florida sun, left to bake and rust in an eerie automotive purgatory. The field in question is located near Tampa in Florida, a region known for its balmy weather and humid conditions. Not exactly an ideal resting place for high-tech electric vehicles. Yet there they were, a sea of Teslas, mostly 2024 Model 3s with a few 2022s and 2023 models mixed in, seemingly untouched yet weathering in place. The first wave of public curiosity started when a Redditor from the Tesla Model 3 subreddit posted photos of the lot. One user likened it to the film The Prestige, evoking a sense of endless clones waiting for a fate they may or may not understand. Another Tesla owner chimed in with a chilling observation. Their own recently purchased Model 3 had come with Sentry camera footage showing it too had once sat in a similar grassy field, covered in dirt before being cleaned up for delivery. What's going on here? Well, speculation ran wild. Some theorized that the field was a dumping ground for surplus inventory, a tangible symptom of Tesla's ongoing struggle to balance production with demand. Others thought that perhaps the vehicles were engineering prototypes or units with non-standard packages that couldn't be sold through regular channels. The absence of performance models seemed to lend credence to that latter theory. A local Tesla service center eventually weighed in, offering a more grounded explanation. The field was an overflow lot, feeding new Model 3s into the inventory as space at Tesla's nearby North Florida Avenue site in Tampa ran out. That seemed reasonable enough, yet it did little to dispel the field's ominous aura. The larger question, though, is why this particular site evokes such unease. Perhaps it's because, like scarecrows standing in a Finnish field, the Teslas seemed caught between states of being, not quite alive, but not entirely abandoned. The imagery of abandoned technology has always held a certain fascination. It evokes thoughts of obsolescence, lost progress, and the unseen costs of mass production. This Tesla field, captured on Google Street View and immortalized in a moment of digital serendipity, became a reflection of that, a reminder that even the most advanced creations of human ingenuity are not immune to neglect and decay. It's a glimpse into a world where progress and entropy exist side by side, and the line between them is far thinner than you may think. Number 1. Nagoro, Japanese bus stop. In the valleys of Shikoku, Japan, the village of Nagoro stands as an example of the passage of time, where the line between life and memory blurs in the most unsettling way. Visitors who stumble upon the tiny hamlet via Google Street View often describe the experience as chilling, yet inexplicably captivating. What they encounter is a bus stop, not unusual at first glance, until they realize that the figures sitting in wait are not passengers at all. The Nagoro doll village, also known as the Kakashi no Sato, is home to over 400 life-size dolls, meticulously crafted by local artist Tsukimi Ayano. The village once had a population of 300 people, but over the years the number of human residents has dwindled to fewer than 30. As elderly villagers passed away and younger generations left for city jobs, Nagoro became a quiet place, empty of the familiar hum of daily life. In response to this silence, Ayano began to fill the void in a way that now draws curious visitors from all over. Each doll in Nagoro represents a former resident or a figure from the village's past. They're made from straw, fabric, newspapers, and old clothes, with an attention to detail that makes them hauntingly lifelike. The mouths, as Ayano has said, are the hardest part to get right. Their subtle expressions, frozen somewhere between curiosity and longing, give the impression that the figures are aware of the world around them and of those who come to see them. Local legend and casual conversation with the villagers here reveal an even more unsettling layer to Nagoro's quiet existence. Some claim that each doll carries a piece of the soul of the person it represents. A local official once told a tourist that the dolls had even been added to the village census, with detailed descriptions of each figure as though they were still living. Well, this might seem like an eerie exaggeration in a place like Nagoro. The line between reality and imagination seemed to shift with the wind. Ayano continues to create new dolls, replacing those worn down by time and weather. Her work has brought attention to the issue of rural depopulation in Japan, turning Nagoro into an unexpected tourist destination. Yet despite the curiosity and the cameras, there's a quiet reverence to this place, as though the dolls themselves demand a certain level of respect. For those who view Nagoro through the lens of Google Street View, the experience is uniquely surreal. The camera captures the village frozen in time, the dolls standing sentinel, waiting, watching. Yet there's no motion, no sound, just the suggestion of life where life no longer exists. In the end, the truth behind Nagoro's doll village is both simple and profound. It's a place where memory has taken physical form, where absence is made visible, and where the boundary between past and present, life and death, has become beautifully and eerily blurred. Click to watch our previous video on 15 more fascinating discoveries on Google Earth. Thank you to our channel members.